we've just bought a new vehicle. It's not replacing the Jeep, but it is an absolute cracker. Bit of a slooper. Stay tuned. So we've sold Donna's 2013 very practical, very reliable Mitsubishi ASX, and very boring, to put it that way. And in its place, we've purchased a 2019, late 2019, so MY20, JCW, so John Cooper Works Mini Clubman. So have we gone from boring and reliable to very exciting and very unreliable? That remains to be seen at this point of time. In 2019, late 2019, Mini changed the engine in the John Cooper Works model, and it's still a B48 engine, but it's a B48A engine. It puts out 75 kilowatts more power, so it puts out 225 kilowatts in this car, 306 horsepower in this market. In the US market, you're down on power, but it's still around the 300 horsepower range. This is all-wheel drive, so it's mainly front-wheel drive, but the rear will come in when needed. Off the mark, if you give it a boot full of welly, it'll be all-wheel drive. At this point of time, until the new John Cooper Works comes out, it is the fastest Mini ever manufactured. 0 to 100, 4.9 seconds. Top speed, 250 kilometers an hour. There's a guy in Germany that does top speed runs on the Autobahn, and he's taken one of these out. He got 4.9 seconds for the 0 to 100, and top speed run he saw 2.6, gets up and boogies anytime you want it. As Donna says, when we overtake, when we're on a trip, and we've done a couple of trips in this now, your guts just go through the back of the seat. It just plants you in the seat and off you go. I've got a bit of a history with Minis. My first car was one of the original Minis, and I spent far too much story of my life on it, and promptly blew it up 3 months after I got my license and moved it on. When BMW brought out their supercharged version, we got one then, and that was an absolutely awesome piece of kit. In 2010 or 11, my dad was looking for a new car, and we bought him a 2008 Cooper S. It was a 1.6 turbo. Worst car we've ever had. And look, a great car, he loved it, but it was just exceptionally unreliable and used to drink oil like no tomorrow. It used to use maybe a litre of oil for every 1,000 Ks. I think it was the N16 motor, and when you look back now over history, it's known as being a very unreliable motor that drinks a lot of oil. Anyway, back to present day and this particular vehicle. The engine, the B48A, over the standard B48, it has upgraded big end bearings, it has forged rods, just a better engine to handle more boost. This engine is used in quite a few BMWs, and this vehicle as a whole feels very BMW-ish to drive. It sits on the road, it is very planted. On a quick, twisty road, this thing does have slightly more understeer than what I'd prefer, and that's just typical of new cars. You can buy a slightly thicker rear sway bar for this. Whether I will or not, I don't know, but there's so much available for these things, it's not funny. When I buy a new car, I try and buy something that an enthusiast would own, and the reasoning behind that is you generally get something that's quite interesting, you generally get something that there's a good knowledge base worldwide, and you generally get something where there's good spare parts available through third-party vendors. Buying and selling motor vehicles is a really interesting journey, especially if it's all private sale stuff, which is what we've done this time. The buying of this was a pretty simple process. I mean, there's not a lot of them available. There's a lot that are at new car price, or there was one that was at more the new car price that someone's bought thinking we'll make some cash on this, and at this point of time they're not making anything at all. There was the cheapest one in Australia, had about 50,000 k's more than what this vehicle has, and I contacted that guy. It was at that point I'd just watched the price come down and down and down and down, and I thought, oh, for that sort of money it's probably not a bad project. I contacted the guy. At that point of time I think it had about 130,000 kilometres on, and he'd had to put it in that week. There was a miss in it, which it was like, oh, I really don't want to be involved in a vehicle with this. To his credit, he sent through the report from BMW. It needed new spark plugs. He was approving that. It needed new tyres. He wasn't approving that. It needed new brakes. And I dare say discs too. He wasn't approving that. And the brakes and the discs were right down. I worked out, for me to do the work, all up with decent Michelins on it and everything like that, there was probably about 4K's worth of work. I'd asked him for, he was in a different state than me, and I'd asked him for the VIN number so I could check if it actually was a 225 kilowatt car or 175 or whatever they are. And it was the 225, and he said to me, well, which one is it? And I said, oh, it is the 225. At that point, he turned around and said to me, some words to the fact, I've still got the text and I'll put it up, that my partner wants to sell it for far too cheap. I've overridden her and I'm putting the price up. And he put it up $5,000 or $6,000, and I just thought, you idiot. And that was the end of the conversation with him. At that point of time, this vehicle came on the market. As I said, this had 80,000 k's on it. It was about 50,000 k's less than the other one. This was another $10,000. This had full service history. It was due for not a major service, but the walk around that BMW do, and we'll talk about that later. It had brand new tyres on. It had Pirellis on, but they weren't a real good Pirelli. I can't remember what they are, but they're Pirellis. They're a good quality tyre, but they're not sort of the ones that you really want. And it had new brakes on it. This was local to me. Went up, had a look at it. It's in awesome condition, as I've already stated, and just went through with the process of the sale. The selling of the Mitsubishi was, horrendous. It's a 2013 Mitsubishi ASX two-wheel drive poverty spec. Had about 90,000 k's on, so really good kilometres for its age. Mostly good service history. Since Donna and I have been living together, I've serviced it myself. Now, people still want it at that age. They still seem to want, full service history. And it's like, well, there's not too many unicorns out there in this part of the world. But anyway, I put it on Car Sales, which is a website for car selling. And I also put it on Facebook Marketplace. The cars that I've sold in recent times have all gone through Facebook Marketplace quite easily. And this was no different. The Car Sales ad, which cost me $90 or something to put on, I think I got 2 or 3 inquiries over the period of time. It was probably a week, maybe a week and a half. Facebook Marketplace. Now, this was a $15,000 vehicle I had it advertised for. I'd expected to get about 13 for it. Now, from the Car Sales ad, I probably got about 2 or 3 inquiries. Not real serious, but I might come at a certain point and blah blah blah. Now, the Facebook Marketplace ad, I got pages and pages and pages of inquiries with regards to it. It was amazing. All the same. It was like they had a template. What's the lowest you'll take for it? And most of them I didn't reply for, because it was like, yeah, these are just dodgy. And in the end, I picked 2. And I thought, I'm just getting so many of these messages, I'll pick 2 and just see where it takes me. Now, the first guy that came out, before he came out, I told him I'd take 13 grand for it. No negotiation. He said, I'm coming out, I'm bringing cash, don't sell it on me. And he wasn't that far from me, so I thought, well, let's see what happens. He came out. I took him on a drive in the car. He was very critical of the vehicle, which, if you're buying a new second-hand car, you probably would be. He then got back and went and talked to his wife and came back and said, my wife wants Apple CarPlay. And it was like, well, it's a 2013 vehicle. They really didn't have it at that point. So that was the end of that. The second guy who came out, very, very picky, much the same story that the other guy had. He got down, he offered me 12.5. I said, I want 13. He said, I'm not paying that. I said, I'll take 12,800 if you can do the deal. He wanted to pay me then and there by transferring cash over. I said, I'm more than happy to do that. However, I need cash in my account, cleared funds in my account before you get the car. If you want to transfer the money over, I'm more than happy to keep the car. When it comes into my account, you can have the car. That wasn't suitable for him. And I said, well, how about an option of, we go to the bank, you transfer the money, I know it's then been done, you can have the car. He agreed on that. So we arranged to go to the bank the next day. We turned up, he turned up. On the way to the bank, he tried to negotiate further. I will give you X amount of money. And it was like, no, you won't. Like, this is the agreement, this is what we're going to do. So we get into the bank. The bank actually were very weird, and they were saying, well, why don't you just transfer it? And it's like, well, I want some guarantees that we've actually got the money before I hand over the goods, which is a fair call. And when it came to do the money, they wanted $30. They said, oh, it's after, 2:30. It won't happen straight away, but it'll happen tomorrow. And I said, I'll pay the $30, and that's okay, as long as we get receipts and everything like that. At that point, the gent turned around and said, I now want you to transfer the title into my name online, and once you do that, I'll transfer the money. And I thought, I'm not keen on doing that. But we didn't have phone reception. So he was quite firm on the fact that you've been quite pushy until now, and this is my requirement. So at that point of time, I just said, okay, enough's enough, and walked out of the bank. The next day, we got a phone call about 5:30 from a lady who said, I don't live far from you, can I come and look at the car now? It was like, sure. She offered the 13 grand. I said, if you can give it to me in cash tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to do it. She agreed, turned up the next day with cash, we handed over the car and job done. But it was a really interesting journey. Since we've bought this vehicle, I've done a few things with regards to maintenance. I've also had a service done by BMW. The servicing on this, it's condition-based servicing. So when the vehicle decides I need to be serviced, that's when it's serviced. At this point of time, I'm working out that it wants to be serviced about every 26 to 30,000 kilometres, which is far too long between oil changes. So I've decided that I'll do an oil change between the services that BMW decide. You've got to use long life oil. There's a whole range of long life oils, and I might go into that at some point of time. But at this point of time, I've used a liquid moly 5W30 weight. It takes 5 litres of oil, and that includes replacing the filter and filling up the filter and everything like that. The filter's a paper filter. It's in a plastic screw-off housing. It's got a drain plug at the bottom with a Torx screw on it. Pretty simple to replace. I've bought genuine BMW filter. In the kit with that, you get a brass sump plug washer, and you get a new O-ring for the plastic housing. So you drain out the oil that's in the housing, unscrew the housing, take out the paper filter, put in another filter, do it all back up, ready to go. Now with the condition-based servicing, BMW also have a walk-around service at about half the 26 to 30,000 Ks. They put it up on a hoist, they check underneath, they check brakes, tyres, anything that needs doing. They check, water, oil levels. They probably connected, check if there's any error codes or software updates and things like that. For the joy of having all that done, they charge about $300. I think it was about $270. They also suggested an air conditioning service, they take out the cabin filters, and from in there on the back of the air conditioning condenser in the cabin, they spray a BMW approved cleaner, and that stops any mildew and things like that forming on the back of the condenser. The thing, it all up cost us $430 for the service. When we got it back, the car smelled minty fresh, and it was actually quite nice, and it's still hanging around a bit, so it's quite a good thing. I think it wasn't that much money in the overall scheme of things, but freshened everything up, and it was quite a nice thing to have done. The overall cost of the service, however, when you go in, I was expecting something to come up, and it did. The F56 and F54 Minis have an issue with one of the engine mounts. They wear and crack. This was no different. This had that, and it's an oil-filled engine mount, so they came back with that. The cost of the part was $290. However, the cost of the overall service was $430 for the walk-around service and the air conditioning service and blah blah blah, $290 for the engine mount, and total cost $1,800. It's just lucky I can spin some spanners. But however, they've gone through the whole vehicle. You know, that's all they've found wrong with it. They've given it a clean bill of health, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. I've also put in a K&N air filter. Not that I'm expecting anything from it, but it's just a good quality filter that I can wash out, re-oil and put back in. I've bought some cabin filters. I haven't put those in yet. So with the walk-around service, it's got, you know, fairly new brake pads. It's telling me oil needs to be replaced in 11,000 Ks. I'm okay with that. That's normal service intervals. So it's got good quality oil, new air filter, new cabin filters, new brakes. The only thing I can think of doing is new spark plugs, and I will get to that. At the moment it's running okay. If the other vehicle I was looking at buying had 130,000 Ks on, another 10,000 or so won't matter, and I'll probably source those parts from out of the US through Rock Auto or Pelican Parts. The parts that I've bought so far for the vehicle, the BMW parts, the oil filter and the cabin filters, were from Pelican Parts. I did buy an air filter through them, but it looks as though the air filter is a different filter for the US market for some unknown reason. In the end, the K&N filter was a filter for an M235i locally, but it said it was suitable for my vehicle, and it is, because it's fitted. But on the box it says suitable for an M235i. So that's where we are at the moment. Modifications to this, probably none, because it's got everything that opens and shuts done to it. The rims, the front rims have got a very slight scratch on them, and they're diamond cut rims, so they'll have to be cut to get that taken out. There's a few sets of rims I wouldn't mind for this, but I actually really like the rims that are on this at the moment, so more than likely we won't do anything. Maybe put a 12mm spacer on it or something. I can't see myself lowering this car anymore. It is quite low the way it is. I like the fact that because it is my partner's car and she'll drive it around everywhere, she doesn't have to worry about going into and out of driveways or going over speed humps or anything like that. So it'll probably stay the way it is. As a John Cooper Works car, it handles exceptionally well. It rides exceptionally well for what the vehicle is. I can't see any need to do any modifications to it at this point of time. I'd quite like the rims that are on it. There's some really nice rims that I like a lot out there, some forged rims. The funds won't allow for that at this point of time, but who knows what will happen in the future. I may put some 12mm spacers on it or something, I don't know, but at the moment I'm doing nothing. We're just enjoying the vehicle for what it is, and to be honest, it really doesn't need anything. You've got to be pushing it quite hard to fill some inadequacies in it. I won't be doing any motorsport in this vehicle. It's not for that. I would dearly love a Mini GP to do some motorsport in, to do Targa Tasmania. After driving this, the last of the Mini GPs with this engine in would be an absolute ball terror. This is just a rough overview of the new vehicle. If you're new to the channel and you like the content, consider subscribing. Anything that I do with this vehicle or anything interesting we do with the vehicle, I'll document on here, so there will be mini content happening, as well as, you know, everything else that we do. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later. Bye now.